I think there's a general misconception that if you have anxiety or if you're dealing with anxiety, it means that you have a lot of anxious thoughts. And I would love to make an argument that this is not necessarily the case, because I believe changing your perspective on anxiety and anxiousness and fear and becoming scared can actually be a big part of finding a way to navigate through anxiety. So for a lot of people, I think they tend to believe that they have a lot of anxious thoughts compared to other people. At least this is the experience I have had with working with clients as a therapist and teaching mindfulness too, that a lot of people tell me that they have a lot of anxious thoughts and hence they call themselves anxious. And though this might be true, I think also a big part of what makes you claim yourself to be anxious or have anxiety is your relation to these thoughts. Meaning when a thought arises in your mind that is, well, scary or that has some sort of fear in it and that makes you anxious, how do you relate to that thought? How real do you take it to be? Is it reality or is it, well, just that, a thought? And I would love to give you a metaphor, which I use myself to help you, well, first of all, sort of visualize this and understand it better, but also to memorize it better, which is that of a ghost. So imagine two people, one with anxiety and one without anxiety. And they're outside this room that is completely dark and they hear a sound in there, right? And they go, oh, this might be a ghost. And that thought arises in them, right? It might be a ghost. And now the person with anxiety might be a little curious and sort of just open the door a little bit, but it's completely dark in there, right? So they just look and they become scared and they close the door again. And they might do that again and again a few times, but they never really dare to go all the way in there because there is a ghost or there might be a ghost. So that anxiety or that anxiousness about the probable ghost sort of just expands and expands, and at some point it becomes overwhelming to the point where the ghost seems as real as anything else, right? Even though it was just a sound to begin with. Now the person that is really good at dealing with anxiety, on the other hand, hears the sound from the room and they open the door wide open and they turn on the light and they check every little crevice and every crack, open the closet, look under the bed, all these things where ghosts usually hide. And they check the room and investigate it. They find out that there is no ghost, right? Something fell or whatever, the sound came from somewhere else. So that sort of illustrates the difference in how we can deal with anxiety, I think. In this metaphor, of course, the ghost is that anxious thought that could, well, be very different from person to person, but it might be something like, nobody likes me, I'll be alone forever, I'm gonna get hurt, I'm gonna get injured, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna get sick, this person doesn't like me and I'll be thrown out of the group soon if I do this, or I'm not good enough. You can find your own thoughts, but they're up there and they sort of spiral and become this overwhelming thing that seems very real at some point, even though it might just have started as a little spark of something. And the room in this metaphor is the mind, right? The ghost is somewhere in the mind and you hear it. And for some people, they go investigate that, right? They go look at their mind. They really take a moment to act like a scientist in some way. They observe and see, is it really true that there's a ghost? Whereas other people, they seek some distraction. They might look at their phone, they close their eyes and their ears and distract themselves from this potential danger, right? And when I say it like this, it makes it sound like people that have anxiety doesn't find it braver to go in there, or that they're not really doing an effort. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm trying to get to is that a lot of people, when they talk about getting rid of anxiety, they want to get rid of their thoughts. They want to get rid of the ghost, right? Which is a process that I think will only make you more anxious. Because when we try to get rid of the anxious thoughts, we're saying, oh, no, there's anxiousness. Let me look away, right? So I can have less anxious thoughts. We're trying to get rid of the ghost. Oh, it's not there, it's not there. But really, this is what is creating the ghost, that it never gets investigated, right? We don't turn on the light. We let it live. And next time it seems a little more real and a little more real. And all of a sudden, this thing that might just be some little thought in there becomes reality for you, right? Oh, I'm 100% sure that this person definitely don't like me, even though maybe they just made a little face at you at some point or whatever, right? Send you a text message that was a bit hard to decipher, whatever. So I think it's just so important to sort of see the difference between these two scenarios, that we're not trying to get rid of the anxiousness, but we're trying to change our relations to it. Because everyone, and this is such an important point, everyone have anxious thoughts. Everyone has fear. Everyone becomes scared. But for most people, what happens is that they don't see it as reality. That thought doesn't get the time to spiral into reality. It just remains this little thing, and they look at it and see, oh, it's probably not real. You know, oh, I'll probably fail the exam. No, I mean, I passed all the others, so why should I fail it, you know? So on. And so when we try to deal with anxiety, don't try and change your thoughts. Don't try and get rid of your thoughts, but change your relationship to these thoughts. And the relationship to your thoughts means, how real are they? How much can I trust these thoughts? And when can I trust them? And I think the best way that I've personally found to do this is one by meditation and self-reflection. This can happen in many different ways, but one I really advise you to try out if you experience a lot of anxiety is to, well, write down all these thoughts. I gave you all these examples, right? So write down what sort of things this voice in there in the back of your mind says to you. I am not good enough. Okay, write it down. Why not? Because I'm not capable of this, or because I'm not like this, or because I look like this, you know, so on. Just write the whole thing down, as crazy as it seems, and try and read it aloud and just see if it's real to you then. And it might lose a little bit of that realness just by like saying it aloud and not allowing it to be in there and looking away every time it starts blabbering. And another thing you can do too, which might require some bravery too, is to, well, get it out there in the public. And I don't necessarily mean public, but talk with people about it, you know, friends, partners, parents, family, maybe find a therapist if you want to. To have the ability to share what's going on in there with people is such a huge step in trying to deal with anxiety, because what you find is that you're not alone in this journey, and other people have these thoughts too. And that is such an important thing to realize, not just hear it. You might hear like, oh yeah, everyone has them, but you need to experience it. You need to ask them, hey, do you ever get anxiety? And what does your mind tell you, right? And you might find that they tell you exactly the same things that you wrote down in your paper. So having the courage to be vulnerable in company with other people is not only an invitation for them to be themselves and a huge help for them, but it can also help you get a more healthy relationship with your mind, knowing that you're not alone in it, and the mind is gonna keep doing like that for the rest of your life. So it's not trying to get rid of the anxiety. It is learning to know when to take the mind serious and when not to, and when the mind is helpful and when it's not helpful. Because the mind always has something to say about every situation, but it's not always to be trusted. So getting a more healthy relationship with your mind is really advised. And in the metaphor, that means turning on the light. And that is why we call it enlightenment. Turn on the light.